Good Tuesday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns to talk about a little later in the show. Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast will join us. We begin by talking Browns as well. Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. So Mary Kay, before we get rolling, any updates on the potential availability of Nick Chubb and Demetric Felton, both of those two on the COVID reserve list, or Kareem Hunt, who was eligible to come off of injured list last week but unable to go?
Well, let's start with the COVID guys. All signs are pointing to them being able to get back this week and play against the Detroit Lions. They have to return those two negative tests 24 hours apart, but I expect that to happen. One indication of that was the fact that the Browns said that they would be back on normal interview protocols starting on Wednesday, or at least that they hope to be. Therefore, that means to me that they are coming out of their enhanced COVID protocols, and that those guys should be probably ready to go. As far as Kareem Hunt is concerned, I think he probably could still use another week or two to recover from that calf injury. Not sure he'll be practicing this week yet.
Yeah, and again, you got those back-to-back games with the Ravens sandwiched between a bye coming up after the Lions, so a huge part of the schedule awaits. All right, this is kind of interesting. Let's take a look at this. This graphic is what the standings would be after the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter. And this is from Daniel Kelly. And the Browns would be 8-2. Now, it's important. They look at this particular two ties would equal a win. But you see the Browns' record there, 8-2, Bengals 5-3-1, Ravens 4-5, Steelers 3-6, the Bills top in the AFC at 7-1-1. But again, that shows you how the fourth quarter has been a struggle for the Browns. They've allowed 86 points over the course of the year in the fourth quarter defensively, and they have only scored 7 points in the fourth quarter in the last 5 games. Mary Kay, we knew the fourth quarter has been an issue, finishing games, closing games, however you want to describe it. When you look at it in those terms, it's pretty striking.
It really is. And I mean, boy, what a statistic that is. And I think it points to the fact that, I mean, you really do need your quarterback to be a gamer in the fourth quarter. That's when you earn your money, is when you can go down and win a game in the fourth quarter, or you can come back or put a defense on its heels late in the game and win it. So that's going to be something to look at when everything is evaluated. But 7 points in the fourth quarter in that span is certainly not enough. So much wrong with this passing game right now.
What are your takeaways from the Patriots game? Obviously, you probably wouldn't want to take a whole lot away from it, but when you look at the Patriots game, what did you see, and what are some areas that have red flags going up?
Well, starting on the offensive side of the ball, absolutely the lack of production, the lack of connection between Baker Mayfield and his receivers, and they're not even really throwing to the receivers all that much. I find that just mind-blowing, the way that's going down. It's just so weird to think that when he left the game with 2:22 left in the third quarter, he had only completed one pass to a wide receiver, an 11-yarder to Jarvis Landry at that point. That's certainly not enough. I mean, there are really good receivers on this football team, even though Odell Beckham Jr. is gone. You've got Donovan Peoples-Jones. He was 0 for 4 with Baker Mayfield in this game, a couple of overthrows. Then you had a couple of drops from some guys. And it just is one of the most disappointing aspects of the season that the wide receivers haven't been able to get involved and that Baker Mayfield hasn't been able to throw them the ball.
When you look at the defensive side of the ball, what kind of jumped out in that game for you?
You know what? New England just did a tremendous job of exploiting some of those Browns' weaknesses. They hit them with screens. I think that Stevenson, the running back, just had such a good game, hitting the holes. He showed good vision and burst, and they just really didn't have an answer for him. And then Mac Jones, I think we're not giving enough credit to how good he is. Of course, they're so well coached, and they did things to, once again, take advantage of the Browns' weaknesses, but he just also made some really good plays in his own right. I mean, he split the defensive backs a couple of times. He fit it into tight windows. He exhibited really nice touch on the football. especially, down in the red zone and things like that. So, I just think that, they ran into a really good young quarterback who managed the game extremely well.
All right, let's take a look at these are sack totals through week 10 of the season. Seahawks 15, Chiefs 14, Myles Garrett 13, Falcons 11. And again, when you put it in those kind of terms, it shows you what kind of year Myles Garrett is having getting to the quarterback. He got one against the Patriots. There wasn't a lot of pressure, but Myles Garrett is having himself a season.
He really is. He graded out really well in that game, and he was one of the bright spots defensively. He had that sack. He also had the deflected pass, and those are the kinds of plays that you need from your number 1 overall pick in 2017. You have to have game-changing plays out of him, and I think there are more. And he talked about that a week or two ago, where he said, the sacks just aren't enough. I want to be legendary. I don't just want to be great. Well, if you want to be legendary, you do have to rake the ball out. You do have to force a fumble. You have to be the reason that your team wins the football game. So I do think that he's right. He does need to step it up, especially in the takeaway game.
All right, so the defense, 45 points, they obviously didn't get it done. Anthony Walker talked about the Browns' defense and performing to its potential.
We could say we are a really good defense, but it's not what you say, it's what you do. And yesterday was a bad performance. We let them run the ball. We let the quarterback have be comfortable back there. Getting the ball out of his hands quick. Just everything that could have went wrong yesterday went wrong. But yeah, we understand what we have. We understand the players that we have in this locker room, the coaching staff that we have. We know we're better than what we put on tape yesterday, and everybody's going to overreact or whatever, but we know we're better than that, and we must be better for our team to be better. And it starts on Wednesday.
So Mary Kay, at what point do you just say this defense just isn't performing to the level you expected it to? I mean, there were a number of signings. Everybody thought they were great. It just has not translated consistently on the field.
Well, it feels like that right now because they just came off of a horrible, horrible game. But what were we saying the week before when they went down to Cincinnati and shut down Joe Burrow and they shut down Jamar Chase? They sacked Joe Burrow 5 times. They got 3 takeaways in that game. And it was the 5th time this season that they have held an opponent to 16 points or fewer. So there have been bright spots on this defense this season. Again, they're coming off of their obviously worst game of the season, but I don't think it necessarily means that's who they are all the time. I think they need to get together. I think when you hear comments after the game, like you heard from Myles Garrett about sideline adjustments and halftime adjustments and things that John Johnson III said, I think those are things that need to be addressed between the players and the coaches.
Yeah, and it's concerning, obviously, but do you think they got caught up into, this is Josh McDaniel and Bill Belichick, and there was a little bit of that, mystique that they got wrapped up in?
I don't think so, because Kevin Stefanski, he's such a good coach. He knows how to get his guys prepared to play a game. And it doesn't matter if they're having to face Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady or Bill Belichick or whoever they're going against. They really just get focused on the job that they have to do and their game plan. He's really good about that. So I don't think that had anything to do with it. I think they just kind of got out-coached and certainly outplayed.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we head to a voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll also look a little bit deeper at that Browns defense. Sports4CLE, Brat back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine. Too late at night. But feeling like it was a night well spent. back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. We continue talking Browns, and it's time to head to the voicemail of truth and reason. This one on Joe Woods and the Browns defense.
Listen, I'm watching that game, and I've called you a couple of times, and I talked about specifically Joe Woods. And when you look at what he didn't do, and maybe what he should have done, and maybe Myles Garrett was correct. There was no adjustments made. There was nothing that he did to improve the situation of their defense. Now, to make a long story short, when you look at the Cleveland Browns, they received the kickoff. They marched down for a score. Okay, thank God. Okay, but what did Belichick do after that? He shut them down. He made defensive changes, and then the offense got in gear, and we couldn't compete with their offense because our defense was just passive. Like I said, attack.
Let's welcome in Mary Kay Cabot again. And Mary Kay, what do you think about that? I'm kind of the same mindset. I want to see it be more aggressive. The Browns tend to be game plan specific as to how they're going to approach that.
Well, I do think on the defensive side of the ball, they probably should have blitzed more and tried to do other things to rattle a rookie quarterback, show him different looks, get him off of his game. So I do think there probably is something to be said for maybe not having the right game plan and then not making the correct adjustments. And these are things that they're going to have to address this week. Some of those things you really don't dig deeply into until you get to your bye week, which isn't coming for another couple of weeks after these next two games. So they don't have, really time on their side to be able to do that. They have to get this fixed in a hurry. On the offensive side of the ball, I do think they need to push it downfield a little bit more, try to be a little bit more explosive. Kevan Stefanski wasn't going to do that against a good pass defense and one that led the NFL with 13 interceptions heading in. He knew that the Patriots would make Baker pay for any tiny mistake, and they actually should have had at least 3 interceptions in that game. So I don't know that they went in thinking, let's be aggressive. I think they wanted to try to get some underneath stuff and get the yards after catch, and that just didn't work out very well.
Well, and Anthony Schwartz kind of getting dinged up with the concussion protocol kind of took away the guy that you would expect them to go underneath to, in addition to Landry, but Anthony Schwartz is a guy that plays to what he wants to, as well as Demetric Felton.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, when you look at these past few weeks, they do miss Nick Chubb. They do miss Kareem Hunt. I think they miss Kareem Hunt a lot. But like I said before, I don't think he's going to be back for a couple of weeks. So they have to game plan around that. They have to work around that. I still think they have enough really good weapons on the team to be able to move the chains and move the ball and score points better than they have. At this point, Baker Mayfield still only has 9 touchdown passes. 9 touchdown passes at this point is certainly not enough and not what anybody expected this season.
Yeah, it's been a struggle for sure. Kevin Stefanski was asked about making those in-game adjustments on the defensive side of the ball when he met with the media yesterday. Here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I think Mary Kay, like I mentioned before, anytime you have a game like that, there's a lot of frustration. I have spoken to Miles about that. I'll keep that conversation between Miles and myself.
Okay. I mean, do you feel like there is something to be said for the fact that the adjustments haven't been what they need to be on maybe both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I'd say, again, you give up 45, you score 7. We didn't have a good enough plan. We didn't make enough adjustments. We didn't play well enough. It's all of the above when you get beat.
And Mary Kay, that was you asking Kevin that. Now, here are the interesting things. 83, 99, 92, 95. Those are the yards that they have driven. The Patriots drove on the defense. 83, 99, 92, 95. That tells you they were giving up all the underneath stuff and never stopped.
Yeah, that was their game plan. And again, it's true. They did not have an answer for it. The screens and some of the reverses and some of the shorter stuff. And then when they wanted to hit their own a little bit longer, more explosive plays, they were able to do it in part, as I said before, because Mac Jones was having a really nice game and they were powerless to stop him or them. So I think they did just do a much better job of game planning, finding those weaknesses, finding those holes in the Browns defense. And one thing that I think will help going forward is the fact that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is back, and he only played about 21 snaps in that game, and he didn't play particularly well. He graded out very low, the lowest graded Brown amongst on Pro Football Focus. And, that's what happens when you miss 3 games with a high ankle sprain. You have to come in there and you have to shake the rust off, and you've got to get back to where you were before. So monumental setback for him and for the Browns, but hopefully for everyone, he'll get better as the weeks go by.
So in having said that, the long touchdown passes, there's 4 of them that were 83 yards or more, 3 of them 92 yards or more. Were they guarding against the big play? And if so, I mean, a 13-play drive and a 3-play drive end up the same result, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, their game plan obviously just didn't work. And in addition to not being able to get off the field on 3rd down, I mean, they converted 7 of 9 of 3rd downs, including 6 of 7 in the first half alone. And that's basically when the game was decided. Conversely, of course, the Browns weren't able to convert a 3rd down on offense. So the game was kind of won and lost on 3rd down. So that didn't help matters. They've got to go back and look at their 3rd down package and figuring out what they're doing. I mean, do they need to blitz more? Do they need to change something up in the back end with the secondary? Whatever the case may be, other teams are going to look at that and they are going to try to do the same things. Now, can the Detroit Lions do that? Can Jared Goff do that to them? Can the Ravens do that? I mean, we'll see going forward, but they definitely exposed some things in this game.
Yeah. All right, so this is a tweet from Jake Trotter. Browns are now 24th in defensive efficiency. They finished 19th in defensive efficiency last year. And again, what we're getting at is there's a lot of new pieces, a lot of big names. Everybody was excited about what the Browns did to the defensive side of the ball. And so far, they're a little bit behind where they were last year when you look at them.
Well, the other thing to consider, and I think people forget about this and don't put enough stock into the opponents that you're playing. The Browns are playing better opponents this year than they did last year. And that is just a fact. I tried to harp on that at the end of last season, including, when you're making your evaluations going forward into 2021, you must look at the fact that they played a lot of bad defenses down the stretch. And therefore, you have to take an unflinching look at how some of your players played against the backdrop of who they were successful against. And I think it's the same way on both sides of the ball. They did not play a lot of great quarterbacks last season. They're playing better quarterbacks this year, and they have to go up against some of them still coming up. I mean, they've got to face Aaron Rodgers. They still have Lamar twice. Joe Burrow, I have a tendency to think or believe that he's going to have a better game than he had against the Browns in that first meeting. So that has a lot to do with it too, that they're playing much better players than they did last year.
Yeah, that's fair enough, and that is, I agree with you. That's something I overlooked a little bit as well, but that's a very, very valid point. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer, and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, another voicemail of truth and reason, this one on Baker Mayfield. We'll also look more at the offensive side of the ball. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns football with Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Browns getting ready to host the Detroit Lions. Let's head back to the voicemail of truth and reason. This one on the quarterback, Baker Mayfield.
Just wanted to call because on the show yesterday I watched the little segment you guys had on Rex Ryan, basically backing up what he has said about Baker Mayfield being overrated as hell. And, he was gloating about how he's been a coach for 30 plus years and da-da-da-da-da, Yeah, he's been a coach for 30 years. That's admirable. But, has he been a winning coach? The guy, if Baker Mayfield is overrated as hell, Rex Ryan is the prime definition of an overrated coach. Like, if you look in the dictionary. Furthermore, I'm just sick of all the hate on Baker Mayfield. He didn't have a great game, against the Patriots. But he wasn't the only one on the field that was wearing orange and brown that had a bad game, And it's crazy because just a week ago they were talking about how phenomenal Baker Mayfield played against the Bengals,
So, Mary Kay, here's the thing. When you're talking about Baker Mayfield, when you're talking about any player, the job of the media isn't to be a cheerleader. It's to be fair and accurate. So when Baker Mayfield plays well, we're going to praise him. When he doesn't play well, we're going to say he needs to play better. The fans can stay behind him. The media needs to be a little bit more objective, and he's got to play better. I think Baker Mayfield probably feels he's got to play better.
Oh, I'm sure he does. And you're right about that. The lines anymore sometimes are blurred in terms of covering a team and who's covering the team. There are some sort of like fan journalist things going on. But I try to stay true to my journalistic roots and do things the way that I was trained to do them. And as you mentioned, that means telling it like it is. And when you see something that needs to be fixed or corrected or changed, to shine a light on it and to delve into it and to see what the problem is. And again, that's one of the reasons why I did that a lot at the end of last season, to say, okay, that was good, but let's remember, They made the playoffs in large part because the Steelers rested their starters in the season finale. You have to take a look at everything that goes into the hopper. And yes, I think that Baker needs to play better. There is no way that you can look at this season and say that he doesn't. I mean, again, he's only got 9 touchdown passes, and he is sort of middle of the pack in terms of rating and things like that. So he's got to step up his game. And what we don't know is how much is that harness impacting him? How much is that injury affecting him? It's hard to get an evaluation on him right now because of the injury situation. But they need to get a good eval because, they've got decisions to make coming up. Do you just let him play out the 5th-year option and then go from there? These are all things the organization will have to discuss.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I've said that really from before he got hurt the second time. It's a tough year to evaluate exactly what he's going on, what's going on with him physically. And now you've got, more issues with it. He's banged up in his foot, in his knee, in his leg. So I think the foot injury, it didn't look like he was able to drive the ball downfield like he normally does in that Patriots game. So I think the foot injury might have been a little bit more significant than he was willing to let on during the week.
It could be. I mean, we don't really know. When he said, turf about the foot injury, that leads you to think, does he have a turf toe situation going on that is impacting him negatively? And is that why perhaps he's maybe not moving around as much as we've seen him before on boots and keepers, or our team's taking that away? So these are some things to think about. And as you mentioned, he does have a knee contusion now. So now he's dealing with a foot, a knee, a shoulder. He's going to have to rest up for this game. And it's all signs seem to be pointing to him starting against the Lions. But I'm sure there will be at least some discussion of, should we sit him down for a week with the knee injury and let him heal up and rest up? I don't think that will happen, but it at least has to be raised.
Yeah, and again, you hope he gets back to where he can do what he normally does. All right, Pro Football Focus predictions for each quarterback. And for Baker Mayfield, most likely to ball out when not targeting the wide receivers. The PFF grade when targeting wide receivers, 79.7, 21st among qualified quarterbacks. When running backs are targeted, 66.1, 13th among qualified QBs. And when targeting tight ends, 78.5, 11th among qualified quarterbacks. So when you look at it, it again, it gives you some data, some analytics data that shows you the Browns and Baker Mayfield are struggling to get the ball to the wide receivers.
They really are. And I think part of that is the fact that Jarvis Landry missed 4 games with a knee injury, and he's trying to shake off the rust and come back and be who he was. And he's still fighting through that a little bit and struggling with that. And they're trying to make the adjustment of life after Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, he was on the field for pretty much every snap. And you have to find a way to replace that. And one of the ways they were trying to do that was with a little bit more of Anthony Schwartz. Well, Anthony Schwartz has demonstrated he might not really be ready for a bunch of duty, and now he has a concussion. So he's in the concussion protocol, and they're going to try to be figuring out, who they're going to have on the field and when.
The other thing is, at the beginning of the year, we talked about how deep the wide receiver room looked. You could say this about a number of positions. Looks like they've gone through that depth pretty quickly. They're, with basically Donovan Peoples-Jones is the only guy that hasn't had some form or fashion, and Rashard Higgins, who we'll get to in a minute. But those two are the only two that haven't been banged up in some way, shape, or form.
Well, Donovan Peoples-Jones did have the groin injury, and he did miss a game with that, but he came back pretty strong and caught a 60-yard touchdown pass against the Bengals in his first week back. So it didn't impact him for the long term, so that was good. But you're right, it just hasn't been what anybody expected from the receiving corps. And I have to wonder, you don't really exactly know when it's time to, turn it over and move to younger guys. But perhaps in the final analysis of this 2021 season, they will come to the conclusion that, maybe they let it go 1 year too long with Jarvis and Odell, and that they should have possibly gone a little younger, a little bit sooner than they did. But nobody would ever think that Jarvis was ready to not be who he is. And I think it's the knee injury and that he will rebound a little bit down the stretch.
Yeah, I would agree. MCL sprain, you just don't know. They affect different people in different ways. The other thing is, Rashard Higgins hadn't been on the field. What's going on? I think he had 26 snaps, so 44% of the offensive snaps against the Patriots. Why do you think Rashard Higgins is getting so few snaps?
Well, he would not have had all of those snaps if Anthony Schwartz didn't suffer a concussion in that game either. So he got a lot of those after Anthony went out. It's a puzzling aspect of this season, and I'm not really sure why Rashard Higgins isn't getting the snaps. I don't know if there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know about, but certainly it's something to explore and to look into, because he was always a reliable go-to guy for Baker Mayfield. And you would think that when Baker is looking for completions anywhere that he can get them, you would have more reps and more targets for Rashard Higgins. Not happening, something to think about.
Yeah, and especially given the fact that Jarvis Landry, before Jarvis Landry was that quote-unquote security blanket, it was Rashard Higgins for Baker Mayfield. And with Landry being banged up, I agree. There's something that we need to look into a little bit.
And, we only get to watch the first 20 or so minutes of practice, so I don't know if he's not practicing well. A lot of times coaches will make their game decisions on how guys are practicing. So I don't know if he has to step it up in that regard or whatever the case may be. But I'm sure that most of the wide receivers are pretty frustrated right now.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, and I are going to step aside, take one more timeout on the other side of the break. CBSSports.com with what each team in the AFC North needs to do to win the division. Division's still up for grabs. We'll tell you what they say about the Browns. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
We continue talking Browns with Mary Kay Cabot. Browns getting ready to host the Detroit Lions, 1 o'clock over at First Energy Stadium. CBSSports.com, how each team can win the AFC North. For the Browns, be true to who you are. Identity was on display during the dominant performance against Cincinnati. Week 9, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield. They also talked about losing Chubb to New England to the COVID list in that game, and also being without Kareem Hunt in their power running game. For the Ravens, they say fix the pass defense. For the Steelers, improve line play, and for the Bengals, it says fix possession downs. But for the Browns, be true to who you are, and that means get back to that running game. Mary Kay, do you think if they get healthy, that's I would assume if you get Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb back, Kevin Stefanski would love nothing more than to be true to who the Browns are.
Yes, and of course you never want to be without Nick Chubb. But I think the loss of Kareem Hunt over these last several weeks has been equally devastating to this Browns offense. And I think they really need him back. And it's going to go a long way for getting things rolling once Kareem is back out on the field, not only in the running game, but in the back.
Yeah, I mean, that's an underappreciated part of Kareem Hunt's game, is that his ability to get out there and also catch the football. We've talked about how, and it's natural to do that after a 45-7 loss, how disappointing the Browns' play has been. They're still very much alive in the division. They're a game and a half out with 2 to play against the Ravens. They still have the Steelers. They still have the Bengals. Everything is in front of them.
It really is in front of them. But the key to the season is in those 2 games against the Baltimore Ravens. I think there are areas to exploit there because their pass defense is so poor, 31st or 32nd in the NFL right now, something like that. So I think that will give the Browns an opportunity to win one or both of those games. Again, I think it'll help a lot if they have Kareem back for one of those games, perhaps after the bye week, maybe. But yes, they still have everything in front of them because of the way this weekend went, with the Ravens losing to the Dolphins, with the Steelers losing Ben Roethlisberger and then tying the Lions, and with the Bengals getting drilled in their last game by the Browns before their bye. I mean, it just has tightened everything up in the AFC North to the point where there are 5 teams in the AFC North with 5 victories, even though the Browns are in last place right now. And they're only 1 victory away from the first place Ravens. So those 2 games coming up are absolutely crucial. They can still win the division if they can get their act together.
Yeah, and so ESPN.com power rankings, Browns 14th, middle of the pack. That's probably fair because, to be honest with you, when you're 5-5, it's where you deserve to be, is middle of the pack. They say that first game on the 28th of November, that's the Sunday night of Thanksgiving weekend, is the most important game with the Ravens. It's at Baltimore, and I would agree it's you can't win both if you don't win the first one. So that's going to be the critical game. And then remember, the Browns have a bye and play the Ravens again. Ravens have to go play the Steelers. So they go Browns, Steelers, Browns. That's tough.
That's going to be very tough. And that's why I think that 3-week span where it's Ravens bye, Ravens for the Browns, and then Browns, Steelers, Browns for the Ravens, I just think it's going to happen, right there. And, we'll see how it all plays out. It could come down to the final week of the season until this AFC North is decided. But the Browns still have 4 division games amongst their 7 remaining games, and that leaves it wide open for anyone. This division is there for the taking.
All right, so Dearness Johnson played well. He was not the problem against the Patriots. He talked about that Patriots loss and looking ahead to the Lions.
Every loss feel bad, it's we got beat and we just got to move on from it. We got everything still ahead of us. We just got to prepare well this week and just go out there and beat Detroit. We got to focus on going 1-0.
Does it feel like, though, do you guys have to be very, very careful about not overlooking Detroit and not kind of taking them too lightly? They did tie the Steelers yesterday.
Yeah, in this league, you never want to take anybody lightly in this league, because everyone is capable of beating anyone each week, So we got to prepare well this week and we got to be dominant when it comes game time.
And Mary Kay, that might have been one of the best things that happened, is the Lions tying the Steelers. They probably should have beat them. They had a field goal opportunity, a 48-yarder that they did not connect on. But Browns need to look no further than that game to realize Lions team's going to come in and play hard.
They will. They're playing very, very hard for their coach, Dan Campbell, and you cannot take anything for granted. Sometimes a team just needs a little boost like they got against the Steelers to try to get on track a little bit. So the Browns are going to have to be on point, and they cannot overlook this team and start thinking about those 2 games that they have against the Baltimore Ravens, because they could get caught up that way.
What are some keys? If you were going to say a couple of things the Browns need to make sure they do to make sure that Lions game ends up in the win column, what do you think they are?
Well, they have to win the turnover battle. That's always number one. They can't give the ball away, and they've got to start taking it away more. That's one of the reasons why they were successful in Cincinnati. They had those 3 takeaways by the defense. Those are so important. They mean everything. And so they've got to work hard to continue to win the turnover battle. That's probably one of the number 1 determining factors of victory. And then if Nick Chubb is back, just rely on Nick. These are going to start to be those games in November and December. That's why you have those guys. That's why you paid those guards that kind of money. So when the passing game isn't what you want it to be, just stick with what works for you. And having Nick back will help a lot.
Would you expect the defense to be kind of aggressive, more in the style you saw against Cincinnati than what you saw against the Patriots?
Probably. And, I think maybe even some of Miles' comments afterwards, those guys will probably get together with the coaching staff perhaps and maybe talk things over and air out some of those concerns. And you might see some things happen a little differently than we saw in the last game.
Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter for the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Mary Kay, as always, thanks so much for the time and the insight.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Mary Kay Cabot, make sure you read her pages of the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast joins us. We will take a look at the Browns defense. We'll also hear from some folks what they thought about the Browns game on Sunday nationally. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
I am powerful beyond my wildest imagination.
I will define my future.
I will keep challenging myself to improve.
Because I am a future leader of this great nation.
I will be responsible for raising a beautiful family.
And educating not only my generation, but many more to come.
I will make a difference in my community.
And I will stand up for what I believe in.
I will not settle for simply chasing my dreams. I will achieve them.
Because I was given a chance.
An opportunity.
A home.
At Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America.
The ultimate leadership experience.
FCCLA has been one of the greatest experiences of my life.
It's made me who I am today.
Join us. We'll build a new future together.
We continue talking Browns. So Mike Greenberg and Jeff Saturday from ESPN's Get Up talked about the Browns and that game against the Patriots.
The Browns, if you look at the names on the backs of the jerseys, despite the injuries, are an enormous disappointment. They have greatly underachieved relative to their talent. How much of that is about the quarterback?
Very little, in my opinion. Listen, I'm just being real with you. You don't believe that Baker Mayfield can win you games. I mean, Kevin Stefanski is not an idiot, bro. He understands Mayfield is not going out there throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns every week. He understands what that offense should and should not be. The problem is when you have Chubb out, you have Hunt out, and I'm not taking the shot at Dearness Johnson. I think he's a good football player, but you have to fall in love with what you think is going to keep you in the game, and they did not. To Dan's point, the minute they went down 14-7, they got off it. And let's address the defense, who is getting boat raced week in and week out. And again, look at the names on those jerseys.
Yeah.
Let's welcome in Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast. And Kevin, when you look at it, defense has not lived up to what most people thought. They've been inconsistent. They haven't put good games back to back, I think is probably the fairest way to talk about them.
We knew we were going to have to wait for this defense to kind of find some chemistry, but they had the players on this defense to make enough plays early on in the season. And we're seeing this team make the same mistakes early on. My biggest takeaway from some of the players talking after the game was John Johnson III, when he is saying that the Patriots did a good job with film study and they went back and beat us with things that beat us early on in the season. You're supposed to be getting better as the season goes on, and you're still kind of having those issues, those gaps and lapses in judgment, lapses in execution on defense, where the same thing is now coming back to haunt you a week after You boat raced the Cincinnati Bengals, to steal a line from Jeff Saturday. You boat raced the Cincinnati Bengals and got the turnovers you said that you were working towards getting, that this defense is supposed to be about. Getting off the field on third down, getting the turnovers, getting their offense back on the field. At some point, when your offense goes down and scores on the first drive, or it's a back and forth type game and your offense finds some momentum and goes down and scores when they're trying to come back, the defense has got to get off the field right away. That's what the Patriots did after their team scored on their opening drive, and then they just went on from there.
Yeah, third down was not good for the Browns. Well, Anthony Walker talked about trying to find some sort of consistency on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, you definitely want to strive for that. I'm not downplaying that at all. I'm not making excuses of the highs and the lows either. Obviously, that's just a part of the game. But, you got to – it's the work, the work that you put in. You just got to keep with the grind, trust in the process, and, the work that we put in each week has to show up on game day. And that's the only thing I can think of, as far as like getting a consistent effort. I think we stay locked in on the process each week. Nothing like, don't ride the wave of emotion, whether we win by 40, lose by 40, whatever it is, we got to stay locked in.
Kevin, the thing about the game against the Patriots, the Browns' scheme seemed to want to keep everything in front of them, and they were waiting for Mac Jones to make a mistake, and he didn't, as opposed to trying to cause him to make a mistake by being a little aggressive and trying to get after him, and that was I just don't understand what they were thinking in those terms, I guess.
The reason we have struggled in the NFL and in the AFC North in particular since 1999, when we had all of these kind of answers or possible answers at quarterback that really weren't answers at quarterback, they were bridge to bridge to bridge, was because those defenses, the good teams' defenses, forced you to try to make plays that you were not comfortable in making. When you allow a rookie quarterback to kind of have everything in front of them and find a rhythm, which is what Baker Mayfield has always kind of built his game on. When he's had the big games, it's been, can I get a rhythm early? Can there be those short intermediate throws early to find a rhythm? And then you have the running game behind you, and now it just seems like everything takes off of that offense. Well, you allowed a rookie quarterback to do that. If you're going to be a good team and a great team, you have got to send some sort of message on defense that you're not going to be able to dictate pace to us. We are going to dictate to you exactly how you're going to have to play in this ball game, and we're going to rush you into making bad decisions and turn you over. That did not happen. Mac Jones got comfortable. He is a good quarterback that ended up looking great to superior in that game because this defense just allowed him to pick them apart and find that confidence and take off from there the rest of the game once they got out to that 14-7 lead.
When you look at it, the defense hasn't put back-to-back really good games together since Chicago and Minnesota, which I believe were 3-4, games 3 and 4 in this season. There have been spots, the Bengals, they looked good. They looked good against a really good offense. But then you follow that up with what happened against Patriots. And in fairness, the defense looked pretty good against the Steelers. So the Steelers and Bengals were back-to-back good games. But I still can't I don't understand why you did not attempt to press the coverage against the Patriots and get after a rookie quarterback. Was I seeing something different?
No, it's almost like $1 million question here. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't, especially coming off of a week where you finally got those turnovers, you felt like maybe finally that monkey was off, that domino finally fell for this defense. The thing that they had been talking about during weeks of practice leading up to games and after games. We have to turn teams over. We have to win the turnover battle. We have the guys to do it. We have to go out there and do it. And you felt like in a divisional game after you just lost to the Steelers, a game you should have won, should have been 2-0 in the division, you come out and you beat a Cincinnati team that can get up and down the field. They have a great offense. you turn them over, and then the very next week you allow a rookie quarterback to just have a field day out there. It's so frustrating to see, and it's for the offense too. This consistently inconsistent element of this team at some point has to break, and it has to break quickly, because you got to start now playing your best football to even make a run at the playoffs, let alone feel confident going into the playoffs. This is not a playoff type team with the type of players that are playoff caliber. So they got to find it. They got to flip some sort of switch quick, and it's got to start. Even though Detroit is what they are, you can't overlook them. Any team can beat any team on any given Sunday. You got to start this week and try to build into that bye week and beyond.
Yeah, and the margin for error is pretty much gone. They've exhausted that at 5-5. They still probably have to get to 10 wins at least, and that means you got to find 5 more wins in the next 7 games. And you get past the Lions, then it's 2 with the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, Packers, Raiders, all of them vying for the same thing you are, as that being the playoffs.
It's a juggernaut of a schedule. Once you get past this Lions game and you go with that first game against the Ravens, yeah, you get a brief pause because you get your bye week built in there between 2 games with the Baltimore Ravens. You and Mary Kay talked about how 4 of their last 7 games are against divisional opponents. Everything is there for this team, but they have got to find a way to build 1 week at a time, because it doesn't get any easier. This is a tough stretch down the end, and if you want to make the playoffs, yeah, you definitely got to get to 10 wins, and hopefully, more so they want to win this division. But if you want to get in the playoffs in general, the AFC is so wide open. The door is cracked open for someone to go through, and you were thinking the Browns had those opportunities to be that team, finally be that team, and they just have not taken advantage of it. And before they know it, time's going to run out, so they better get things rolling quick and find some sort of come-together moment that'll take them to the end of the season and beyond.
Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast tonight. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we'll turn our attention a little bit more towards that game coming up against the Detroit Lions. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns getting ready for the 0-8-1 Detroit Lions at First Energy Stadium Sunday at 1 o'clock. Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen Show on Peacock talked about Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski's system.
I've already told you what Baker Mayfield's problem is in terms of his visibility and also his brand. And it's being the first overall pick in a draft. That's it. If you're a first overall pick in a draft, you are that surefire guy. That's it. You're the guy, and we're going to put the game on your shoulders, and that's it. And now he's got a coach who's, as Trent Dilfer mentioned last week, and thanks to the call, Nathan, to give us this food for thought. Baker Mayfield has got a coach who set up a system where it's not on him to win it. And guys like Odell Beckham Jr. are sent packing, because he doesn't fit in that system where you've got to be at a certain spot. And if you're not at a certain spot, and you're in a certain throw, and a certain this, certain that, and if you're down 14, the system is not built to come back. And guess what happened? They got down 14.
Let's welcome back in Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast. And I get what Rich Eisen's saying. I agree the system isn't built for a guy to be the guy at quarterback. But when the opportunity arises, the quarterback has to go out and win a game or two. so far, for whatever reason, and I'll couch it by saying Baker Mayfield hasn't been 100%. He's been banged up, but he hasn't gone out and won a game when the team has needed him to so far.
He hasn't. Everybody has to own what is going on with this team and being 5-5. And more specifically, what happened in that game. Baker Mayfield does not get excluded from any sort of criticism in that game. I don't know where he was throwing when he threw the interception, but that really jump-started a defense that had been coming in playing hot and now winning 4 in a row are the New England Patriots. And it's because of their defense and their run game. That was supposed to be the Cleveland Browns. It was supposed to be our run game. And all the attention, all of the names that they brought in on this defense that Joe Woods was going to be able to use in so many different looks, that was supposed to be us. This 4-game winning streak for the New England Patriots, if not more so from what the Browns were expected to do this year and still have some of that in front of them, they have not done that. And Baker Mayfield has not done what we thought he would do, and what he should do is take another step in year number 4 under the same coach, the same offense, open up more of the playbook. The NFL has adjusted to Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. They have not adjusted to the NFL. And if you're going to win and win the big game at the end of the year in the NFL, your quarterback has to win in the fourth quarter, has to have one of those big all-time drives to win games. And we're just not seeing that guy out there on the field. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But whether it's injury or just not capable, it's all left to be seen. They have a lot of answers, and Baker Mayfield has a lot of questions still to answer with his play the rest of this year.
Yeah, and we showed the graphic earlier. If you somehow magically cut the game off at the end of the third quarter, Browns would be 8-2. And last 5 games, offense has only scored 7 points in the fourth quarter. And for the year, the defense has given up 86. So fourth quarter, it's when you win games, and that's why this team is at 5-5. They've struggled in the fourth quarter. All right, enough about that. How do you see the Lions game playing out? What are some of the keys when you look at it?
It's going to be dominating the trenches. You're going to have your offensive line be much more dominant in run pass protection for both of them. You're going to have to create those little holes. We know that whether it's Nick Chubb or, when Kareem Hunt finally comes back, or even Dearness Johnson, they don't need these big gaping holes to get through. If they see the lane, they're north and south runners that are going to attack it and then use their speed and power to get extra yardage after, if not take it to the house, as we've seen Nick Chubb do several times this year and throughout his career. Also on the defensive line, the Lions, they tied the Steelers. You cannot take them lightly, but you better dictate your defensive line that you put a lot of money into and a lot of practice time into and just put a lot of energy, time, and effort into to be much better. That defensive front has got to get home. You cannot allow these quarterbacks to have, even though they're getting the ball out of their hands quick, you got to force their hand to second guess their first read. Mac Jones was able to get it to his first read or get it out of his hands quick. Pass rush couldn't get home. You're going to have some sort of looks or disguised looks to force the Detroit Lions and quarterbacks moving forward to come off of that first look, question it, give yourselves a little bit more time to get home, because then we know Jadeveon Clowney and we know Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year candidate Myles Garrett can get there. But they need to execute whatever plan it is. They need to execute a lot better and then have good coverage on the back end.
So we both know that talent-wise, Browns have more talent than the Lions. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I think the New England game's a wake-up call for this one, so I don't think they overlook anything after that. Your thoughts? Do you think they get it done and move on to what will be the most important game of the year with the Ravens? Do you think they get the win against the Lions?
I do think they get the win against the Lions and move on to that next most important game in Baker Mayfield's career and most important game for this Browns team this year. We've heard that several times already. We're going to keep hearing that this year. If the New England Patriots game was not a wake-up call, I don't know what is. So I expect them to win on Sunday, and they should win on Sunday and set up that matchup on Sunday night the following week.
Kevan Arnold from the Voice of the Land podcast. Kevan, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Dave. Always appreciate it.
All right, Kevan Arnold, make sure you listen to him on the Voice of the Land podcast. That'll do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you again tomorrow back here at 4 o'clock. Hayden Grove and Ashley Bastock from the Plain Dealer as well as cleveland.com will join us. We will see you again tomorrow, 4 o'clock on Sports for CLE. Have a great night, everybody.